All right, picture this. A massive, brand new $6.4 billion bridge connecting the US and Canada. It's almost finished, a total marvel of engineering. And here's the kicker. Canada paid for the whole thing. But then, just when it's about to open, bam! It suddenly becomes the heart of a huge international political drama. So what on earth happened here? Let's get into it.
So, it all kicked off with this one social media post. Out of nowhere, Donald Trump threatens to stop this massive, critical project from opening. He basically frames it as this terrible deal for America, right? The argument is that Canada owns the whole bridge, and the US is getting completely ripped off, getting nothing out of the deal.
But, and this is where it gets really confusing, this bridge was no secret. I mean, the Trump administration itself had called it a vital economic link before. They even signed off on funding for the US customs part of it. So you have to ask, what really changed? Why the sudden 180?
Okay, so to figure that out, we've got to peel back the layers here. We need to separate the explosive rhetoric from the actual reality. And the best place to start is, well, at the beginning. Let's look at the history.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows a really clear history of support, right? Back in 2017, you've got a joint statement with his administration praising the bridge. Then, just a couple years later in 2019, he literally signs a bill to help fund it. So this whole idea that the project was some kind of surprise attack on the US, it doesn't add up with the facts.
Okay, let's break this down even further. Let's put the claims from that post right up against the actual legally binding agreement from 2012. Claim 1, Canada owns both sides. Well, the reality? Michigan has joint ownership. Claim 2, the US gets zero compensation. Wrong again. Michigan is set to get 50% of the net toll revenue. And what about that idea that the US was totally shut out? Nope. American steel, American workers, they built the entire US side of this thing.
And you know who was one of the first people to push back on this? Rick Snyder. He's the Republican governor of Michigan who actually negotiated and signed the original deal. He came out and basically said, whoa, hold on a second, trying to use this for leverage makes zero sense. He made it crystal clear that blocking this bridge wouldn't hurt Canada. It would hit Michigan workers and businesses right where it hurts.
So, if the facts don't back up the claims, there has to be something else going on, right? And to really get what that is, you need to know about the other bridge, the one that's been sitting there for nearly a century.
Yep, the Ambassador Bridge. This thing was built way back in 1929, and it's privately owned. For decades, it's had a virtual monopoly on all the truck traffic between Detroit and Windsor. And we're not talking about some sleepy little back road here. This is the single busiest commercial border crossing in all of North America.
And as you can probably guess, having a monopoly like that is, well, it's a gold mine. We're talking over $60 million in toll revenue every single year for the private owners. So you can see why any kind of competition, say a big new public bridge, would be a massive threat to that cash flow. And to protect that revenue, well, the owners of the Ambassador Bridge have reportedly spent something like $30 million over the years, all in an effort to stop this new public bridge, the Gordie Howe, from ever being built. They have thrown everything but the kitchen sink at trying to stop it.
And I mean, this fight has been going on for years. They backed a ballot measure in Michigan to try and get voters to block it. That failed. They filed lawsuit after lawsuit, taking it all the way to the Supreme Court, claiming they had the exclusive rights to the crossing. They lost. They even ran ads on TV during Trump's first term, basically begging him to cancel the project. And it's probably worth noting, they're also pretty significant political donors.
Okay, so with all this political drama and the whole monopoly angle, it's easy to forget why this new bridge was even needed in the first place. This is so much bigger than just a local traffic issue. We're talking about the economic heartbeat of two entire countries.
Get this, a full 25%. That's a quarter of all the trade. All the goods moving between the US and Canada goes through this single tiny corridor. Think about the auto industry. Its entire just-in-time system depends on parts flowing smoothly back and forth, right here.
And this is where the Gordie Howe Bridge is a complete game changer. Right now, with the old bridge, trucks have to get off the highway and crawl through city streets in Windsor, hitting stoplights, dealing with congestion. It's a mess. The new bridge, it's a direct shot. Freeway to freeway, I-75 straight to the 401. All those bottlenecks, gone.
And that new efficiency, it has a staggering price tag. We're talking about projected savings of around $2.3 billion over 30 years. That's money that goes right back into the pockets of the transportation industry and all the businesses that rely on it, including a ton of American manufacturers.
But it's not just about speed and money. There's this huge concept called supply chain resilience. Think about it. Relying on one single, almost 100-year-old bridge for a quarter of your international trade is just risky. What if there's a protest, a major accident, a structural problem? Anything could shut down that entire economic artery. The new bridge isn't just a nice-to-have. It's a critical backup plan. It's insurance for the entire supply chain.
So, okay, let's circle back to that sudden political threat. How did everyone in Canada and Michigan react when this all blew up? Well, they didn't panic. They went right back to the basics, the contracts that were already signed, and the cold, hard economic facts.
And the response was really interesting. It was fast, it was unified, and honestly, it was super calm. There was no big public shouting match. The Canadian Prime Minister's office just made a phone call to the White House and calmly walked them through the facts of the deal. At the same time, leaders in Michigan, from both sides of the aisle, came out and reminded everyone how important this bridge is for jobs and their economy. And in the end, the threat just kind of fizzled out. The social media firestorm died down, and construction on the bridge never even paused. It turns out the real power wasn't in the heated rhetoric, but in the boring stuff. The legally binding contracts signed back in 2012, the permits, the agreements that had been locked in for years. The concrete just kept getting poured.
Which brings us to the big, final question you have to ask yourself. When you really look at all the facts laid out, was this whole standoff truly about the bridge itself? Was it about tolls and ownership? Or was this massive, vital piece of infrastructure just being used as a convenient pawn, a pressure point in a bigger trade battle, even if it meant risking the economy of a key American state?